Right, in chat. So, do you reckon a bit high enough? Or imagine that when you fall, will you actually land in the pit of doom, or will you like go too far outside? Let's find out. So if I keep moving right, good day, Ruskin enjoyers. So yeah, I'm working with Cheese Taco. He's built a Geister barn. I'm trying to build a super high up gladiator arena, and well, if you die, if you fall off, you'll land all the way at the bottom in a fire pit. Still need to get fire though. But anyway, that's fun things for Halloween. We need to talk about the current rust store. So I did kind of mention this in the 48-hour analysis. I need to talk about how you might want to approach skins that sell not that much. It's not necessarily skins that sell hardly anything, but also based on what they are, being surprised that they're selling less than what you'd assume. So, by all means, if you want to skip ahead, look in the description, all the chapters are there. We've got some key points that you might want to learn from, because it could happen again in the future. We can also talk about what could happen to those skins. We could also talk about, well, manipulations potentially. So, alright, cool. Let's get started. So this rust store rolled out. Where's my Sinotype skins? Well, we caught up. That's what happened there. But anyway, just before we have Halloween, yes, October 23 and the 30th of October, we're going to see 2 Halloween rust stores this year, and everybody wasn't really super thrilled with this rust store. They weren't ecstatic. They didn't really care that much. That's what I gathered based on your opinions and your responses on my videos. But anyway, yes, it looks like these skins aren't selling that much. But due to the sheer lack of interest, these actually could end up being pretty interesting skins in the future. More specifically, based on like investments and whatnot. If you get my, if you catch my drift, you know what we're here for. But yes, they have sold next to nothing, and it is a big surprise. And I thought I had to make a video dedicated to talking about this specifically. So Armory Garage Door, you're selling quite a lot, but we kind of realised that maybe a lot of people just assumed it had transparency. They bought it and they got quite the surprise. So we did question, could that potentially have got a lot of like refunds as well? Iceberg bed, you are the 5th bed skin to be accepted in a very short time. Like in 3 weeks, we've seen 5 beds being accepted in total. We're about to go through Halloween. There will be more beds. So it's kind of not surprising to see you didn't sell that much compared to the previous ones. Again, the very first skins for a brand new Skinnable are going to sell ridiculous amounts. Handmade LMG is for November. Tactical gloves are for December. Just you wait, they'll sell tons as well, the first few skins. But then eventually, because we've seen so many of them being accepted after a while, you will see the newer ones not get as many sales. Remember what happened with backpacks, for example. Since last November, we've seen almost like 30 skins in total. But after getting 16 backpacks in a row consecutively over the course of like 4 months, eventually it's just too much. So, yeah. Are the beds going to end up like the backpacks? Or are they going to slow down once it's no longer the brand new Skinnable? Because, of course, next month we have the handmade LMG. So, all right, keep an eye on that. Backpack, you're kind of lucky. You're selling considerably less compared to the skins that were accepted back in 2023 for the Pirate Collection. I'm talking hoodie and pants, tier 2, tier 3. They did like 40 to 50,000 subscribers. Will people appreciate this Pirate Collection when we have the naval update? Is it like stereotypically pirate themed enough for people to appreciate it and want it and crave it and desire it? We'll see. These 3 skins, they don't seem to be in that much trouble. They seem to be selling quite alright. It's all the remaining skins here that are looking pretty, well, funny. Interesting. So, let's talk about these specifically right now. So, let's quickly hop over to here. This is how things currently look like right now. When I did my 48-hour analysis, which you can see over to here, I'm switching back and forth too much, sorry about that. I looked at all the skins. I thought the first few were seemingly okay. But we have the majority of the skins in this store looking as if they're going to sell less than 10,000 subscribers. Which is pretty ridiculous now that you think about it after the recent rust stores that we had. Pretty ridiculous. Oh, yes. And once we have Halloween skins, do not be surprised that they sell quite nicely as well. Do not be surprised, okay? So, yeah. No Sinotype skin this week. No small prop skin this week. But again, the skin creators, they had to make sure they get a Halloween skin out in time. So, yeah. We caught up with all the Sinotype submissions. We caught up with all the small prop, small box skin submissions. So, it is what it is. We ended up with some skins that didn't exactly look super thrilling to most people. And again, I have read all the comments and whatnot. I saw what you said. And by all means, if you want to get a good look at all the skins, consider watching my rust rotation video for October 16, 2025. Yeah. So, please understand this. I mentioned it in my predictions video. I mentioned it in my 48-hour analysis video. If these don't sell that much now, if they don't have like the demand right now, it doesn't necessarily mean they won't have demand in the future, right? It could be a lack of interest for now. But there could be some reinvigorated interest in the future, considering, like, oh, maybe we'll see, like, collection continuations. Take, for example, look at the iceberg bed. If that was one of the first skins to be accepted, like literally the first or second, that very likely would have sold a whole lot more. Do you remember when I looked at this bed over here, and I said, you know what, that's a cool looking design. I'd love it if we could get like a tropical collection, deplorables and whatnot. And we did see a sleeping bag being submitted. Mishka does intend to make a whole lot more deplorables with the tropical theme. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Diaz is now considering doing the exact same thing, of course, with his iceberg collection, iceberg bed as a brand new collection. So remember this. In a lot of countries at the moment, as we get closer to December, it's winter time. And Christmas is very much associated with the winter time. Snow, you get the idea. So in the past, we have seen some winter themed skins being accepted, like icy themed skins, and keep an eye on that. I think it might be happening. So that could be very nice for that. And if it didn't sell as much as what people actually want, that very likely could rise up ever so nicely. A much better example is talking about the Night Demon boots and gloves. Night Demon collection has come out somewhat recently. We've seen the tier 3, we've seen the hoodie and pants. We saw the tier 2 being submitted, but it wasn't accepted. And yet we got the boots and gloves for him. So okay, cool. And what we always say when we do predictions, when it comes to clothing and armor pieces, we hope that the skins match up to the sales of the ones that came out previously. At the very least. Now, if they sell less compared to the skins that already exist, oh, hang on a minute, that might be pretty interesting. Please understand this. With an in-demand collection, the clothing and armor pieces that sell the least, they tend to end up being the most expensive. Not too hard to understand, I'm sure, but basically understand it in such a way like this. If people wanted full collections for themselves, with this example, the tier 3, they go between 12 to 14,000 subscribers. The hoodie and pants, they go between about 15 to 15,500 subscribers. But after doing the 48-hour analysis, I looked at the possibilities, and I thought the Night Demon boots and gloves could potentially only do between 11 to 13,000. It's not like dramatically down less compared to the previous skins, but it is looking as if those are going to be the lowest selling skins. And if we do see tier 2 in the future, well, what happens when we see brand new core pieces? Of course, core pieces being hoodie and pants, tier 3, tier 2. If we see that being accepted, all of these are expected to spike in price. But these two, they very likely will go much higher compared to their price, because of course they sold less compared to all of these. So only so many of these to go around. That's the main thing you have to keep in mind, be aware of. So yes, these, with them potentially only going to do between 11 to 13,000 subscribers, they're in a very, very interesting spot. However, me bringing that up now very likely could lead to a lot of people jumping in to buy them. Sorry about that. But you have a direct comparison, and if it does remain fairly in demand, oh yeah, that's going to be quite sweet. And if you don't trust boots and gloves being in demand in a set, well, I'll just quickly point out, do you remember the very goofy Valentine set we got, Love Struck? Yep, the pink collection, yep. So if you can remember, over the past, several Valentine's Rush stores, we got more and more of these being accepted. Hoodie pants, tier 3, tier 2, and eventually boots and gloves. What happened was, when the boots and gloves were accepted, they didn't sell that much. The hoodie pants here did about just over 20 to 21,000 subscribers, yep. Tier 3, that did almost 30,000 subscribers. And then the tier 2 came out around 17 to 20,000 subscribers. So all of these, you could say, well, 17 to 30,000 subscribers. Yeah, the tier 3 was a bit problematic. When the boots and the gloves came out, they only did 7,500 subscribers. Because it's a fairly in-demand set, very goofy, all pink. Yes, these have ended up being the most expensive pieces out of all of these. Right now, it's October, and typically, most skins reach their lowest price points at the moment. For these two, they're still doing very good. Love Struck boots, almost $10. Love Struck Red Sun gloves, $5.50. Both of them sold at 99 cents each. Now, you might question, is Night Demon as in demand compared to Love Struck? Yeah. But point still remains, if we do eventually see tier 2, and it very likely won't happen until November, of course, because we have 2 Halloween Rush stores in the way. Well, yeah, okay. We'll see how it goes, but that is an interesting spot. It has a direct comparison, looking pretty sweet. Now, independently, we have the BSAP. You can, of course, mention it, hey, it's part of this collection, but that's 2 deplorables. There's a possibility that seeing this SAP being accepted, the skin creator very likely could make a push for more weapon skins being made. And let me tell you, I have made a short video showcasing this. The nightlight on this SAP, along with its transparent aim sight, yes, a transparent aim sight SAP, very useful. The yellow coloration stands out ever so nicely during night time, and the red aim sight, very good for every single environment during the day. It's not selling that much, or at least, if you were to ask me beforehand, hey, this is going to be accepted, what do you reckon it would sell? Well, honestly, just with it being a transparent aim sight, I'd have thought this would probably reach up to about 20,000 subscribers. But no, currently right now, 3 days in, only 8,500 subscribers. Along with the boots and gloves, this very likely will only do between 11 to 13,000 subscribers, as we saw with the 48-hour analysis. Now, that isn't dramatically down bad. Of course, comparing to the previous SAP skins that are accepted, we've had ones that only did like 8,500 subscribers. But then again, in that particular instance, Minicopter isn't exactly very in demand, especially considering that its design, not the most flattering. But that's all by design. It was supposed to be better worn and rusted and whatnot. But yeah, it's not what people clearly want. So yeah, it's not exactly doing super great either. But if you came out during the summer, for example, how many people do you reckon would have wanted to have bought it? Let me remind you, earlier this year we had the Heatseeker collection. We had Heatseeker Summer. We had a lot of hype. Now I made a video talking about like the potential of this and whatnot. We kept seeing more and more skins with transparent aim sights being accepted, and a lot of people like, Hedge, does it really matter? I was like, oh, you just wait. Well, as I just mentioned, we're currently in October. Most prices for most Ruskins right now should be down real bad. In fact, I made a video talking about this quite literally. As you'll see over to here, Autumn Fall Seasonal Dip 2025 Ruskin prices. It looks like we are now past the worst of it, but prices are still down pretty bad. So consider giving that a good watch, and remember, you can always skip ahead. We have chapters, yes, always in the description. But basically, this is a routine thing that happens every single year. Prices tend to be very good during the summer. They drop off during the autumn fall season. At the very least, I should say September, October, November. Again, I know you're aware. I know you're from different countries, so the seasons are different. But as we get closer to around Christmas period, so late December rolling into January time, most people around the world have time off. They're not in school. They're not working as much. Christmas period, New Year's period, we tend to see a lot of people playing Rust, and we tend to see a lot of demand rising. With so many people playing, an increase in demand for skins is pretty insane, and we see brand new all-time peak prices again for Ruskins. So we're steering closer and closer to January time. Oh, yes, we are. And by all means, give that a good watch to understand everything. But point still remains, these are still doing very, very good. They have transparent aim sights. People want them. And, of course, this is doing very, very good. The best example is, of course, the Heatseeker Revolver. This is the only revolver that we have in the game with a transparent aim sight. Now, the transparency on this, the difference compared to a standard revolver is like hardly anything. Like if we could get like a quick, good little picture here, like, oh wow, you got rid of the two little prongs to the side. You remove millimeters of transparency. Doesn't matter. That has doubled in price. Sold for $3, and ooh, it's only getting higher. With people struggling to get tier 2 with the recent blueprints changes, this just kept going up in price. The revolver was being appreciated, and therefore the skins were rising quite nicely. So this has already reached $8. And we're still in the worst of times. How's that going to look around January time? So the point I'm trying to get across is, yes, the transparency is like hardly anything, but it was still appreciated. So if this isn't matching up to like original expectations in terms of sales, as time goes on, as a lot of people return around the end of December, January time, what will happen to this potentially? And could we see a lot more skins being made for this proposed collection now? Could we see another attempt for the AK-47 and the SAR? Maybe with a transparent aim sight after what's happened here. Oh, well then, now you're thinking. And again, I repeat, transparent aim sight, very good night light. The yellow coloration, very, very useful at night time. And to get a good look at that, consider hopping over to my YouTube and you'll see that short video, again, right there. So cool. So that, in this particular instance, with its usefulness, it's surprising to see it's not selling as much as you would expect. So again, another instance of not exactly selling hardly anything, but this compared to all the other skins, except the military sapper, if I can recall, that also had transparency. We'll see how it goes. You might say, well, hang on a minute, that went down in price. True, but this came out in October, and it very likely isn't going to be like selling as much as that. As you can see here, almost 14,000 subscribers. This is selling less compared to Night Demon, so that very likely will be the skin that does 11,000 subscribers, which would be a fair bit less than this, but it also has the advantage with the nightlight. So I'm just saying, it's in a very, very interesting spot. We'll see how it turns out. And now we'll roll over to the Swirled Sword. But immediately, and I'll say, I said it in a predictions video, I said it in a Rust rotation video, this could easily sell like just about 2,000 subscribers and people still wouldn't really care for it. There's nothing wrong with the skin. It's the item. People don't care about Savage Swords. Now, if I could remind you, earlier this year, we've had plenty of skins being accepted, but we also had the chocolate sword during Easter. Do you remember this? It was goofy. It had bite marks in it. Cool. It only did 2,900 subscribers. And you're going to sit there and say, well, what went wrong? People don't care about Savage Swords. So yeah, there's also some other factors, and unfortunately, this never stood a chance. However, it's only got 30 listings. It only did about 3,000 bare minimum sales. Could it potentially get bought out in the future? Oh, well, we have to talk about potential manipulations. So, if I could remind you of the Easter Rustors we had earlier this year. So you may recall we had this Rustor. Initially, the sales were looking okay. Rooster Mask is accepted. The first ever DSL mask to be accepted in 2025. And, well, it's been a very long time since we saw one being accepted, but previously we had seen some being accepted in previous years, but I'm talking years ago. So that only did about 13,500 subscribers. Will people want to dress up as a rooster? A big cock? During post-Christmas, we shall see. Easter Chick Fridge, you also did very nice. Just over 10,500 subscribers. But around this period of time back then, we did see quite a lot of fridges being accepted up to this point. But even then, that non-glowing in the dark design still was appreciated because he's just cool, chill, and relaxed. Just a cool looking bird. So anyway, sales were pretty okay here. But I have to remind all of you, people don't really care about Easter. They don't care about the skins. So with the second week of Easter, Easter Rustor, the next batch of skins sold like next to nothing. Now there's a problem with these because they're all Easter themed. They're all very gimmicky towards Easter. So by default, you wouldn't really expect them to work out very well. Same applies to Halloween themed skins, Christmas skins. When it's out of season, people don't seem to care that much. And you will notice the prices have dropped off quite considerably for some of these skins. However, do you notice how some of them are actually in the positive at the moment? Neon Bunnies is, well, evens. Mr. Chick Rock, slightly in the positive. We have the Easter Neon Fridge. Yes, we had 2 Easter fridges. But this one is doing much better compared to the previous one because that only did 5,200 subscribers. So, yeah, things got a little bit goofy, a little bit silly in the past. But due to a sheer lack of sales, this is okay because it's not like people can dump a huge stack of stock and whatnot. It's just comfortably sitting there with next to no listings. So let's go take a look at you on the Steam market. How many listings do you actually have? 28. And slowly as time has gone on, because nobody wants to list theirs below like $3, people are like, oh, I kind of want it now. So they've started to build up their buy orders and whatnot. The prices have slowly been increasing. So simply due to a sheer lack of interest, it's now led it to having at least some interest. But a counterpoint I have to bring up, how many sales have happened in the past 24 hours? 3. Yeah. Bit awkward. So why do I make such a fuss about this? Because we have a Bones fridge over to here. The first ever transparent design we've ever seen for a fridge. More specifically, the fact that you can see through it on all sides. The first ever one, and it's only got 6,000 subscribers now. This still looks like it's only just about going to reach about 8,000 subscribers by the end of its 7-day tenure in the Rustor. But I am surprised. A very goofy, very silly design such as this is accepted, and it's only getting this amount of sales, bare minimum. Huh. Are you sure in the future nobody's going to want to turn around and say, oh, this is cool, this is funny? When certain YouTubers use certain skins, you suddenly see their prices suddenly go up ever so nice because, well, other people want to copy them. William. Anyway, so if a certain influencer, not intentionally by the way, were to use it and say, oh, that looks cool, their fans tend to also buy. So you never know. But again, with hardly any sales, it's not like people could just unload tons of stock. Now, people do need fridges. People are appreciating fridges this year, and there's a reason why we keep seeing so many skins being accepted. But that, of course, is also a problem. With so many fridges being accepted, it's not a surprise to see it's not getting that many sales. We've recently just had 2 Twitch drops. We've had plenty of interesting designs. There are 32 fridge skins in total, and half of them have been accepted in 2025. We still have Halloween and Christmas to go through, so, okay. So, yeah, that's a thing. So, yeah, there's obviously reasons as to why certain skins are struggling to sell. But, again, there might be a lack of interest now, but who knows what could happen in the further future. Could there be renewed interest? Could there be collection continuations? Could there be a much bigger collection? Who knows? So we'll have to keep an eye out. Phantom M39, same thing with you. Recently, the M39 was the focused item of the month. Look at all the skins that are accepted. Oh dear, oh dear. It looks like you're going to be struggling. Yeah, Far too many options. Even with this having transparency in the same site. That's a bit awkward. And the Senor Tomato Miner hat. What went wrong? Well, it's a fairly easy answer. If these two skins were accepted beforehand, some very cool, somewhat scary looking designs, and then the very goofy angelic halo, is it surprising to see not too many people are super crazy to want to buy another one? This goofy thing, I swear, I mean, it's still in the positive. People actively want to have a stupidly glowing, super bright glow in the dark miner hat. I want to be an angel. Let's see if we get a collection continuation for that. But yeah, people are happy with what they bought. They don't need that, I guess you could say. And now this looks like it's going to barely reach about, 8,000 subscribers as well. We'll see. So, sheer lack of sales. Could that potentially lead to something interesting, regardless of collection continuations and whatnot? Well, if I could just close all these tabs, I want to take you back to a certain Halloween rustore of the past. Remember this? Hey, we might see a collection continuation for this in about a couple of weeks' time, we'll see. But if I could just scroll down, I want to remind you, with these holiday-themed rustores, and again, this is something for you to keep an eye out for the next two rustores, we tend to get quite a lot of skins. And for 2025, we have seen 300 plus skins being submitted. We might see some very large, very crazy looking rustores. But some skins, they might get not even noticed. Take, for example, this rustore right here. Look at all the skins that are accepted. And then we scroll down to see Pumpkin Bow only got 4,200, almost 4,300 subscribers. And you're going to sit there and say, but Hedge, it's half down in price. Yeah, for now. But it was manipulated. So this is another thing. Sheer lack of sales can also lead to people thinking, oh, you know what? We could buy all the stock and pump up the value. And this has happened with this. So right now, $1.22, early 26 listings. And is that a surprise? Again, early 4,300 subscribers almost. But as we go over to the past, you may remember for a period of time, this was selling for how much? About $9, $10 almost. It did happen. So skins with low sales are definitely vulnerable to potentially get manipulated. Keep an eye out for things like this. But right now, is it in demand? Not really. Only 2 sales today. Well then. So, interesting things to be aware of. Potential nice things that can give these skins a nice boost. But the majority of the time is, well, they didn't sell that much because there just wasn't interest. And there very likely could be an instance where they just drop off regardless. So, alright, cool, understood. Can I at least hop in game and show you some of them? There are indeed some spooky times ahead. So at the very least, let's now pan over to here and take a look at a very cool, shiny looking design. Could we actually see a full set of Night Demon being accepted? What do you reckon? Boots and gloves, if you do not sell that much, well, if the collection does progress, you are in a very, very, very interesting spot. But is it actually going to happen? We've seen a lot of collections in the past, unfortunately, never actually finishing. Quite a lot of them only start with 1 or 2 skins and that's it. It is what it is, but it does look quite cool. But it is shiny, and is that what people want? Do people want to be shiny and rust? The people who sweat too much are, no, they're very displeased. Oh yes, so, okay, understood, all good. But, feel free to comment below. What do you reckon the future of it will be? Now, at the very least, we could take a look at some of the other skins. We have the Faint Glow, the Iceberg Bed, looking quite nice. And yeah, you're too hot when you sleep, the perfect bed for you. Haha. So, let's just move over to here. Lights don't seem to be effect. Oh, there you go. That's a bit odd. But anyway, yes, now it's looking better. Oh, yes. And you might have noticed that the fridge, yeah, doesn't glow in the dark. But will people ever appreciate the transparency it has, the goofiness, the primitive design? It's something we'll have to question, In primitive servers, would they allow it? Would they allow it? Would you reckon? Anyway, so it's goofy, it's silly, but is that enough? We've obviously talked about this last week with the angelic halo, but that's something you can wear and run around with. That's always stuck in your base. So yeah, all right, understood. So then we pan over to here, the garage door that doesn't have transparency. I do worry about that. So if you bought it, by all means, if you bought it for yourself, it's a treat. I hope you appreciate it. But if you're wondering about potentially wanting to invest in a ton of into it, it's probably not the best idea. No. And for last, to all those people that are panicking about Sinotype collection, thinking, oh no, it's the end. No, we just caught up with them. And the skin creators aren't supposed to be submitting skins for about 2 weekends. But what do we have over to here? Oh, we have a brand new one. Yes, indeed we do. We currently have 13 acceptances, and this could potentially be number 14. The expectation is the skin creator is going to go ahead and try to submit a few more. The largest collection we've ever had for a large box collection is, of course, the not Sinotype, Neon Storage collection, which we've compared a lot with Sinotype in the past, haven't we? So Neon Storages, they ended up with 18, but then again, it got like a whole lot more small boxes, lockers, garage doors, and of course, recently the fridges, haha. But at the very least, we hope we could potentially reach up to around 17, 18 skins. If this could potentially be number 14, what do you want to see being submitted as well? We're now in the realm of potentially seeing some very like unique skins, you know? So of course some people are going to mention Dropbox and the like, but what about car parts? What about, oh, I don't know, a parachute box? So I'm just saying stupid things. Offer your opinions. I'm sure the skin creators will see it themselves. And let's see if that actually gets accepted in an upcoming November rush store. Because remember, Halloween. Sorry for all the rambling, but you got to understand with a lack of sales, things can get pretty interesting. You just got to be aware of the possibilities. But for all the skins in the current rush store, well, abnormal borders would be super helpful, wouldn't it? But the majority of the skins in this rush store, they're not abnormal. So it's a bit awkward. Only 4 of them are abnormal. The garage door, the iceberg bed, the B-Sep, and of course, we have the Phantom M39. But the rest of them, they're not marketable until the rust rotation. Will you risk it in doing a few purchases, or, well, will you just try and stick with a barter? But you have to be quick. We don't know if the Halloween rush store, the week 1 Halloween rush store, is going to be nice and early, because we do expect the actual Halloween update to be put through. In theory, could we have a rust rotation around 6 o'clock in the evening UK time? An early rust rotation is what I'm saying. You'd have to be quick. So of course we will talk more about that on Wednesday when I'm streaming and talking about the prices we could suggest for all these skins. But yes, it could be very interesting for that one. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how these turn out in the future. Collection continuations, manipulations, or just simply being appreciated. Unfortunately, the answer is something we're going to find out further on. But do not be surprised in the short term, over the course of the next like few weeks, maybe up to a month, all of these very likely could be slipping below their rust or price, okay? But that could just simply mean down by about 5%. So, we'll see. Thank you very much for watching me. I greatly appreciate it. Best of luck to you in your investments. Have fun with Halloween. And yeah, let's keep an eye out for that next rust store.